Good afternoon. Hi, everyone. Welcome. Thanks for being here today. We're good afternoon. Hi, everyone. Here today. All right, let's get started. My name is Ileana, and I'm a librarian at the San Francisco Public Library. Wherever you're from and wherever you're tuning in from, I'm so happy that you're with us. Go ahead and put in the chat where you're tuning in from. We love to know where our audiences are. Wonderful. So you are here because you are interested in some crafts. We have a 3-part series at 4:30 for the next few weeks with our friends from Book Arts Roadshow, who will be demonstrating a different book arts project. Today's book project is covered board books, part of our Make and Do series. Our trusty friends will share the supply list in the chat, and you can always watch this later as well. Our Make Do series is your place for craft and maker programs for school-age kids and families. Be sure to check out our calendar listings for book lists and more. Before we begin, I'd like to offer a land acknowledgement. We are on the unceded ancestral homeland of the Ramaytush Ohlone, who are the original inhabitants of the San Francisco Peninsula and continue to live, work, and play here today. As the indigenous stewards of this land and in accordance with their traditions, the Ramaytush Ohlone have never ceded, lost, nor forgotten their responsibilities as the caretakers of this place, as well as for all peoples who reside in their traditional territory. We wish to pay our respects by acknowledging the ancestors, elders, and relatives of the Ramaytush community and by affirming their sovereign rights as First Peoples. A huge thanks to the Friends of the San Francisco Public Library for their generous support of this special series. We cannot do this without them. Without further ado, let me welcome Book Arts Roadshow, which was co-founded by Cheryl Ball and C.K. Itamura, who provide book arts instruction and hands-on learning experiences for children, teens, and grown-ups. Take it away, Book Arts Roadshow.
Thank you, Ileana, for that wonderful welcome. And also thank you to the Friends of the San Francisco Public Library for sponsoring our appearance here today. Let's see. First of all, we want to introduce ourselves. So I'm C.K. Tamura.
And I'm Cheryl Ball.
And together we are the co-founders of the Book Arts Roadshow. And what we've been doing for the past 2 years, it's been 2 years now. For the past 2 years, during COVID-19, we've been primarily doing Zoom workshops for San Francisco Public Libraries and for schools and school districts, and doing some other workshops for adults as well. And prior to that, we actually would go to all these different places, schools and libraries and museums in person. And so one of these days, hopefully we'll get to meet you all in person. But for now, we're glad you can join us for this session. We're doing it on Zoom and we're linked to YouTube. So we've got this wonderful staff at the San Francisco Public Library that's making all the magic of technology work behind the scenes. So that's a little bit about us and the Book Arts Roadshow. We're going to start off by making sure that you have the tools and supplies you'll need for the book we're going to do today. So first off, tools. You're going to need a pencil. Any kind of pencil will do. If it's got an eraser on the end or separate eraser, that's even better. You're going to need a glue stick. Any brand of glue stick will do. And we'll use glue sticks today. A ruler. So if you've got any sort of ruler, oh my gosh, and I don't seem to be able to find my ruler, but Cheryl's got one there. So grab a ruler. We want to make sure that your ruler has inches on it because we'll be using inches as opposed to centimeters today. And a wooden spoon. So I've got a couple of wooden spoons here. If you happen to be a crafter and you have something called a bone folder in your crafting toolkit, you can use your bone folder instead. But today we're going to be using spoons, and they could be wooden spoons or metal spoons. Either one will be fine.
Or the back of your scissors.
And the back of your scissors works great too. And scissors. Speaking of scissors, yes. You'll need to have some kind of scissors. They don't need to be gigantic. They just need to be able to cut paper. Let's see. Oh, also, as far as tools are concerned, if you have a couple of little paper clips, that'll be handy. Paper clips of any size would be handy. And you'll also need, let's see, I've got my little pin cushion here, a sewing needle. And you'll need some thread. So we're going to be using wax linen thread today. But if you don't happen to have wax linen thread lying around, feel free to use dental floss. Dental floss is actually a nice thread that has wax on it already. And if you don't have thread that's got wax on it, that's okay. You can use some kind of string or other type of sewing thread as well. And let's see, and you'll need some waste sheets of paper. Now, this is just some blank craft paper. The most important thing about waste sheets of paper is basically it's just paper you don't mind throwing away. So Cheryl's got a piece of advertising or junk mail that you can use. Pages out of an old magazine work nicely too. Really, paper bags in the grocery store, those work great too. So those are the tools that you'll need. And Cheryl's going to show you some samples of the book we're going to make, and she's going to walk you through what types of paper and supplies that you'll need to make the book.
So here are the books that we're going to be making. They're hardcover and they're sewn. Let's see if I can see. There's the sewing right in there. So these are two books that we've made. And let me show you the supplies. I'm actually using cutout pieces of cereal box for my hardcovers. You'll need 2 pieces of, oh, my camera's totally washed out, but decorative paper. If you don't have any decorative paper, you can paint on paper. You can use wrapping paper. Cheryl's actually painted on paper and done some rubbings to create her nice covers. So that's awesome.
You can even use old maps.
Yeah.
Those work nicely too.
And then you also need a small piece for the spine. It's like 1.5 inches by 6.5 inches long. It kind of contrasts with my decorative papers. You could also, another good piece to use is from the USPS mailers that you get, there's some material called Tyvek. It's pretty strong. You'll also need 4 sheets of white paper.
Or if you don't have white paper, colored sheets of paper.
Any kind of paper will suffice. So these are 4 sheets of paper, and then there's 2 accent colors. If you only have 1 color of paper, 6 sheets of paper works totally fine. So that's the paper materials that you'll need today. And I'm going to clear off my work surface.
Great. So while you're making sure you have all your supplies, I'm just going to show you a handful of other samples of the same book, just different materials. So this is another version of the book that Cheryl showed you earlier. This part is referred to as the spine. As she mentioned, these are hardcovers. This just happened to have a collage that was used for the front and back. This one's just got some decorative paper that was used, some marbled paper. This one was made using paper bags that were painted with stripes. And then we cut them into the sizes that Cheryl just mentioned to make the covers. And then this one was simply the piece of cardboard that was drawn on. And the spine was also a piece of paper that was drawn on to make the spine. So as you can see, there's a lot of different possibilities, a lot of different variables. You can make these books pretty much out of any kind of paper and any kind of board. So let's get started. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to cover the boards with whatever type of paper that you have. And the term we're going to be using is decorative paper, just because we're using paper that's decorated, but it also could be plain paper. So if you're just wanting to cover your books with a plain sheet of paper, whether that be a white sheet of paper, you're going to draw on it later, that's fine too. But the term we're going to use is decorative paper. So the first thing we're going to do is get your 2 pieces of your chipboard or your cardboard. Cereal box cardboard is fine. And we're going to need those 2. We're going to need your 2 sheets of decorative paper, and we're going to need a glue stick for starters. So the first thing that we're going to do, and oops, let's see. I think Cheryl just dropped off and back on. Hi, Cheryl. Welcome back. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to get our waste sheet of paper. And in Cheryl's case, that's like the advertising sheet that she had. And we're going to put that down on your work surface. And primarily that is being put down on the work surface simply to protect your table or your desk or your counter that you're working on from getting glue on it. So put that down, and then you're going to take one of the pieces of chipboard, cardboard box, and put that down on top of your waste sheet, and then grab your glue stick. And what we're going to do is we're going to put just enough glue on the board that we need to get the paper to stick, but we're going to do it sparingly so that we don't waste glue needlessly. So the way we're going to do it is we're going to go around all 4 edges of the board with the glue stick. Gonna kind of press hard to put the glue on. And then we're just going to make a big X in the middle of the board, because that's actually enough glue for our purposes today. That'll be just enough glue to adhere the board to the paper without wasting additional glue.
And I'm gluing the back where there's printing on it, because I don't want it to show on the inside. It really doesn't matter, but I'm gonna glue mine that way.
So on mine, I've got glue around the edge and a big X of glue in the middle, which is hard to see because it's invisible. And then we're going to take the board and we're going to place it face down, the glue side down, onto your decorative paper. Oh, and I should mention that on your decorative paper, the decorated side of your paper
Is
should be
down.
face down on your waste sheet of paper so that you're adhering the board to the back side of your decorative piece of paper. Then we're going to place that so you have approximately, doesn't need to be perfect, but approximately the same amount of space on the top and the bottom and each of the two sides. Then once you have that situated, you're going to grab your spoon and then you're going to rub all over the board and press down, and you're activating the glue stick glue, so that it will stick really well. And then once you have that, you can set that piece aside. Should look something like that. Set that one aside, and we're going to do that again with our other sheet of decorative paper and our other board. So first, put the board down on the waste sheet of paper, go around all four edges, make a big X in the middle. And then once you have that, you're going to put your decorative paper. Oh, and as you notice, Cheryl put her, after she adhered the glue, she moved her waste sheet to the side and then put her decorative paper down on the work surface so that the decorative paper won't get any extra glue on it.
Yeah, I got lots of glue on that.
So then go ahead and center the board so that you have approximately the same amount on the top and the bottom and the sides. And the lucky thing is, if you don't get it perfectly situated the first time around, the glue's still wet, so you could peel it off and adjust it to bring it more into the center. Then take your spoon and rub all over the board, pressing down hard so that the glue will stick, but activate the glue. And then at this point, you should have two covers. Well, they're going to be covers in just a minute after we do the next couple steps. Great. So now I'm going to put the cap back on my glue so it won't dry out. And then now you're going to grab your scissors. So what we're going to do at this point is we're going to cut at a 45-degree angle, about like that, on each corner. But before you do that, just note that in this little space here, we're leaving just enough of the paper between the corner of the board and the edge of this paper, or maybe an ant to crawl across. That's an official measurement, is enough for an ant to be able to cross in that corner. Hope that makes sense. So you're, in other words, you're not going to cut all the way up to the corner. You're going to leave a little bit of paper in between the corner and this edge. Great. And we're going to do that to all four corners of this piece that will eventually become one of your two covers. So once you cut that, you'll have something that looks like that, with a little space on each of the four corners between the cut and the corner of the board. Little tiny space. Okay, beautiful. Then we're going to grab the other one. So this is the one that we've already cut. Put this one aside. We're grabbing the other one. And on this one, we're going to go ahead and do the same thing. We're going to go ahead and cut the corners at a 45-degree angle, leaving just enough space for an ant to crawl between the corner and the edge of the paper. And then save your little corners. Don't throw them in the trash bin right away, because we might need this later to fix something if we need them. Just save them just in case. Okay, so now we're going to get our waste sheet back. your waste sheet of paper. And if your waste sheet of paper is sticky from when we were gluing just a minute ago, flip it to a different section, fold it to a different section, or grab a new sheet, because you want to make sure that when we're doing this next section of gluing, that you're not doing it on a section that already has glue all over it. So go ahead and put your fresh piece of waste sheet down. And this time you're going to take one of your decorative pieces, decorative covers, and you're going to take the decorative side and put that face down on your waste sheet. And then you're going to take your glue again. So get your glue stick out. And what we're going to do is we're going to put glue on one of the long sides. There's two short sides and there's two long sides. So pick one of the long sides, put glue along that, and put your glue stick down. And then what we're going to do is we're going to lift the board up just to the point where the edge of the board is. So you could see Cheryl's lifting up the board to the edge, and then she's rubbing the board along onto the waste sheet. So you're kind of pushing down a little bit. And what we're trying to do is get the very skinny edge of the board to adhere to the paper. And then once you've got that, you can go ahead and then fold over that one side and push that down so that it sticks to the board. You guessed it, take your spoon and then go ahead and smooth that paper, that edge of the paper down. So we've got one long edge. Now we're going to do it again, but we're going to go over to the other long edge on the opposite side. So go ahead and put glue along the other edge. And we're purposely doing it along the long edges and not the short edges at this point. So make sure to do it on the other long edge. And once you have your glue on that, go ahead and lift the paper. Lift the board up and rub the edge against your work surface so that the glue the skinny side, the thin part of the board gets stuck to the paper. And then go ahead and fold over the edges. And grab your spoon and go ahead and rub that down. Great. And now we're going to go ahead and put glue on the top edge. But this time, before you fold it over, there's a slight difference. So what's going to happen, and Cheryl, I'm going to let you walk through this one simultaneously while you're doing this part of the demonstration.
Okay. So I just put my glue on the long edge. And what you're going to do is you're going to take your nail and push in. So you can see on Cheryl's screen and you can see mine, but I'm pushing in on the corners against the board. So you're going to have this little funny, let's see if I can, funny looking ear right there.
And basically what you're doing is you're taking that little extra piece of paper and you're wrapping it around the corners of the board to give a little bit of paper to those.
I think you can see it right here in this picture. Yeah, it's covering.
And then once you have the little corners covered with paper, ever so slight amount of paper, then you can go ahead and wrap.
You can do the same thing, like rub it against the thing.
And then rub it down with your spoon. So now we're going to do the same exact thing to the other short edge of the paper. And then wrap the corner, put glue on it, then wrap the corner first with that tiny piece of paper. And then go ahead and rub that edge, fold it over, and smooth it down with a spoon.
You want to tell them what to do with the corners just in case?
Oh, yeah. Just in case you have a gap in your corners where you could see the cardboard through the paper, you can use your little leftover corners that we saved to actually cut little pieces out and wrap that around the corners and add a little bit of more glue so that it covers the cardboard if you need to. That's what they're for. It's just to do a little bit of patching up if that's necessary. Otherwise, we're going to go ahead and go to the other cover. Do the same thing we just did. So you're going to do the two long sides first, one at a time. Rub that edge down. Fold over the edge. Rub it down with a spoon. Go to the other long edge. Do the same thing. Put the glue down. Rub the edge so the little skinny edge gets glued to the paper before folding the other long edge over. And then we'll go to the top. And then we'll tuck these little corners in on the top. And then fold that top edge over. And then do the bottom. And tuck the corners in before folding the edge over and smoothing all the edges out with the trusty spoon. Or as I mentioned earlier, if you happen to be a crafter and you have a bone folder, you can use your bone folder in place of the spoon in all these situations. Great. So at this point, you should have two covers, two boards that are now covered with decorative paper that look like that on one side and look like that on the other side. Then you can set these to the side. Now we're going to work on the pages to put inside the book. So we mentioned earlier that you should have 6 pieces of paper all cut to the same size. Yours might be all the same color, but if you happen to have 4 sheets that are one color and 2 sheets that are another color, put them in this order. Put 2 colored sheets on the table first, and then put your 4 sheets that are the same color or white on top of them. And then once they're stacked up in that order, then we're going to go ahead and fold them in half, trying to match up the corners as best you can. I say it as best as you can because it's nearly impossible to take a stack of paper and fold it in half where all the edges match up perfectly. So just knowing that, go ahead and fold it in half as best you can, the whole stack all at once. And then take your spoon and then rub down the folded edge and press down hard so you get a nice crease. And then at this point, you should have what's called this. It's going to be a signature, which has got all 6 pieces of paper folded in half. And our next thing is we're going to punch holes and we're going to sew. So the first thing to do at this point is to grab your ruler and let's see, what we're going to do is that this the paper should be 6, I think it's 6 inches wide. Wait, no, what is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 inches wide So what we want to do is we want to mark a halfway point,
Which is 2.5.
which is 2.5 inches. Right down the crease. So put your ruler right in on the crease, then measure 2.5 inches, which is the center point. And then you're going to take your ruler and measure a 1/2 inch from the top and put a dot there. And measure a 1/2 inch from the bottom and put a dot there. So again, the middle one is 2.5 inches from either the top or the bottom. And then the other ones are a 1/2 inch from either side. Now that's going to be where we're going to punch our holes. So the first thing that you can do, we're going to punch the holes with the needles, but we're also going to talk briefly about different ways you can punch holes. So to punch a hole with the sewing needle that you have, you're going to take the sewing needle and you're going to have your pages at about a 45-degree angle like that. I'm holding mine up in the air,
Me
but
too.
basically what we're going to do is just imagine that I've got a table under here. So place yours on the table at about 45 degrees. And what we're going to do is take the needle and poke it through the hole that's in the middle. Oops, I need a sharper needle. And poke it through the dot that's in the middle so that you've got the needle going in at a 45-degree angle to come out here. And then kind of wiggle it around to make the hole slightly larger.
And it might help to paper clip all the pages at this point because they're going to start moving around.
Yeah, that's a great idea. So we've got our paper clip, kind of paper clipping it to hold it together. I did mention that we'll mention a couple different ways that you could punch holes. So if you happen to have one of these little push pin type things, you can use these also to punch the holes inside the book instead of using a regular needle, if you happen to have one of those. And then if you are a crafter who happens to have something called an awl, AWL, you could use those to punch as well if you happen to be a crafter. But today we're using the needle to punch the holes. So you already punched the hole in the middle, and then we're going to take the needle out after you wiggled it around, and we're going to do the same thing to the other 2 dots. So you're going to go ahead and punch a hole where the other dot is on one end, and then another dot on the other end, and wiggle it around just to make the hole slightly larger. So at this point, you should have all 6 pieces of paper clipped together, and now you have 3 holes punched in your signature. Great. So at this point, we're going to thread the needle. So I'm going to grab a piece of thread that's approximately 3 times this. So I think we've got, this is about 8 inches. And so it's going to be 24 inches long, your thread. But if you can either measure 24 inches out approximately, or you can
do 3 times the
times
height of the book.
the height of the book. Oops, I'm sorry, I was holding it this direction, but it's really this direction. So 3 times as long as the crease there. So it's more like 16 inches. Is that right? 1, 2, approximately. So we're going to have you do is go ahead and thread your needle with your thread. If you have wax linen thread, great. But if you're using any other type of thread, that's fine. Now, one thing that I want to note though is that different from sewing, you do not need to tie a knot at the end of your thread. So just go ahead and thread your needle and then leave no knot on the other end. It's not necessary to tie a knot.
There's like a short little,
Yeah. So after you thread your needle, just make sure that you have about 2 inches of thread hanging off of, you've got your long piece of thread like that. And then you've got a short little piece there. Kind of squish them down. All righty. So now sewing the book together. We're going to start from the inside. So we've got the outside of the book looks like that. The inside of the book looks like that. Cheryl's got C, B, and A. You're going to take your needle and go through the middle hole. And Cheryl's written C, B, and A so that while we're walking you through it, it'll make sense, but you do not need to write C, B, and A on your book unless you want to.
just for visual purposes.
Yeah. So
Okay.
go ahead and put your needle through hole B, which is the middle one, from the inside of the book going out. And then you're going to leave a little piece of thread and clip it to the paper clip on the inside. So just about a 2 inch piece of thread. We're just going to clip it. We're going to call that part the tail. We're going to use that later to tie a knot. Not right now, but in a little bit. So go ahead and leave that paper clipped to your clip. And then flip your book over. So now you're on the outside of the book. And now you're going to take your needle and you're going to go over to C, to hole C, and push that through from the outside of the book to the inside of the book. So pushing it through the outside, and then you flip it over to the inside and you pull your thread out from the inside of the book. The next stitch is we are going to skip over the middle hole. We're going to skip B and we're going to go clear all the way across to A. And you're going to put your needle through hole A and push that through. And then flip your book over and pull it from the outside. Now we're back on the outside of the book. And then from here, we're going to go ahead and go back through the middle hole. So you're going to go back into hole B. And you're going to pull your thread up from the inside. And ideally, what you'll have is you'll have your tail that we saved that's clipped to the paper clip. And then you'll have the long piece of thread with your needle on it. And in between the two, you'll have this other piece of thread. This thread that's going up and down like that will be in between the two. And then what you're going to do is you're going to take the short tail and the longer piece of thread that has the needle attached and tie a knot. I'm going to tie a square knot, which is basically right over left, left over right, kind of like tying your shoelace. And then once you have that your knot tied, you can clip your thread to, I don't know, maybe about a 1/2 inch or so. Clip your threads so that your needle is no longer attached. And you've sewn your signature. Signature is just a bookbinding term for what we just created, which is basically a bunch of pages sewn together. We're almost done. Last step is that we're going to glue our sewn signature into our covers. So the first thing we're going to do is get our waste sheet of paper again. And make sure again that you're using a part of your waste sheet that doesn't have sticky glue already on it. So go ahead and put that down on your work surface. And then we're going to get that skinny piece of paper that's a little longer than 6 inches or so. We're going to take that sheet of paper. We're going to put that down on our waste sheet. And we're going to take our glue stick and put glue on the strip of paper.
On one edge first, right, Cheryl?
Yeah. So we'll do one edge first.
And you don't want to go all the way to the middle, and you'll see why.
Yeah. So now you're going to take your board, take one of your boards, your boards with a decorative paper on it, and you're going to take the decorated side of your board, and you're going to place it down on the skinny strip of paper about halfway, but not all the way halfway. So not quite halfway to the center. And you're going to want to leave approximately the same amount above the board as you have below the board. So there's a little bit of extra paper up here. There's a little bit extra paper down here. And I stuck the board on this piece of paper almost halfway, but not quite, a little bit short of halfway. And then you're going to take your glue stick and put glue on the other half of the paper, on the other half of the strip. And you're going to take your board, the decorative side of your board, and you're going to place that down on your decorative, on the strip of paper, almost halfway, but not quite halfway. And specifically, if you see how I have one board here and one board here, and I left a little space between the two, that's about as wide as you would need if 2 ants were walking side by side next to each other and they wanted to march down the middle of this. That's about how much space I left between the two. Yeah. Yeah. I know.
Mine's a little washed out, so you can't see it.
technical measurements here.
Yeah.
2 ants walking side by side. Okay. And then once you have that, then you can go ahead and take your top part, which already has glue on it, and fold that over.
Mine dried out, so I'm going to
Top.
put a little bit more.
Or you can add more glue. And then you're going to take the bottom and you're going to fold that up into there. Right. And then once you have that, it's a good idea to always grab your spoon and smooth out this side and also these pieces on the top and the bottom. And it's also a good idea to do that not on your waste sheet of paper, which probably has some glue on it right now. Then we're going to take our covers. Now they really actually do look like covers. And we're going to take our signature, which is our pages that we've sewn together, and we're going to combine the two together. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to take the sewn edge of your signature that has the thread showing on it, and you're going to insert that into your cover like so, and then fold it together like that. So you can kind of get an idea of what that's going to look like when it's glued together. And then I'm going to let Cheryl walk through how she uses the waste sheet in gluing this last step.
Okay, so there are 2 sheets of colored paper. So just take the one sheet like that. You're going to take your waste sheet and you're going to actually put it inside the first cover page. And then you're going to do your glue on the edge, along the bottom edge, along the top edge, and then you're going to do it on the close to the spine like that, and then do an X. And my paper's moving all over the place. But see, I put the paper underneath so that the glue, I can glue out, and the glue's on this now. So you pull this out and then make sure your book is all centered, your inside sheets. And what you're going to do is you can close the cover on it using your hands first. And voila, it's glued inside. Repeat on the other side. So I'm gonna flip mine around. There's 2 colored pages. Again, take your waste sheet, put it inside the first colored sheet, and then we're going to make our glue strokes top, side, bottom, and then along the spine, do an X, and then pull your waste sheet out, close your back cover or front cover, whichever you did, press down with your hands, take your spoon, and voila, you have your hardcover book with nice decorative end sheets. These are called end sheets. There you go. And
So congratulations.
yeah, take it away.
A covered boards book.
Yes.
Thanks for joining us. And we hope to see you next week. Same time, same place.
Yay, fantastic. Oh, it's magic what you do. It's magic, but it's real because everybody can do it too. Wow, fantastic. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Oh, and be sure this video will stay up so people can watch it over and over again, and you can tell friends about it and send them the link so they could watch it as well.
Yes, exactly. Thank you so much, Cheryl.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, for sharing your amazing skills. Thank everybody for joining us. We'd love to see your covered board books by tagging us at SF Public Library using the hashtag SFPL Make and Do, or tagging Book Arts Roadshow as well. Today's workshop, as CK mentioned, will be available to replay any parts you need to view again and share with your friends. Be sure to tune back in for our next workshop, Turkish Map Fold. Same time, same place. Instagram is a great place to see more of Book Art Roadshow's art. And you can also sign up for their newsletter at the link that's in the chat. And that's all for today. So take good care of yourselves. And we hope to see you at another library program soon. Thank you so much.
See you next time.
All right.